Past presidents of the Academy, vice presidents, fellows of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, students, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of fellows of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, Ghana's premier learned society, I warmly welcome you to today's event. The chairman for tonight's event is Professor Bentil Andam. She is a chartered physicist with a doctorate in cosmic radiation physics. She has held various professional positions, including the head of Department of Physics, KNUST, member of the governing board of the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission and CSIR, chairman of the National Nuclear Research Institute and Forestry Research Institute of Ghana. She is the first recipient of the prestigious Chair for UNESCO Women in Science and Technology in Africa, West Africa. Professor Bentil Andam is a fellow of the UK Institute of Physics, a former senior associate of the International Center for Theoretical Physics in Trieste, member of the Council of the Abdus Salam Edward Boucher Institute, and a fellow of the Ghana Institute of Physics. She was elected fellow of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences in October 2003, became vice president of the Sciences section from 2014 to 2016, and is now the president of the Academy, the second woman to assume this high office of the Academy. Ladies and gentlemen, your chairman for the occasion.
Professor Klapasoya, immediate past president of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, past presidents, past and present members of council, fellows of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, the family of the founder of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, the Nkrumah family, members of the political party that the founder founded, the Convention People's Party, CPP. I have seen Professor Hagan. We greet you. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Professor Edward Solomon Ayensu, our celebrant for today's function, is an international development advisor on science, technology, and economic development. The chairman of the Board of Trustees of the African Institute for Mathematical Sciences, AIMS, Ghana. Professor Edward Solomon Ayensu is remembered around the world as one of the few Africans who worked at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. Member and international vice president of the Board of Directors of the International Institute for Sustainable Development, IISD in Canada, a member of the Board of Trustees of the Management of Intellectual Property Rights in Health Research and Development, MIHR. Professor Ayensu has been Secretary General of the International Union of Biological Sciences and the founding chairman of the African Biosciences Network for many years. He is an old Achimotan, so that's something to say. Obtaining his doctorate degree from the University of London, appointed visiting fellow of Wolfson College, Oxford University. He is a recipient of the Outstanding Service Award of the United States National Museum of Natural History, and has been a senior advisor to the President and Director for Central Projects Department at the African Development Bank. Professor Edward Solomon Ayensu has many areas of interest. It's only recently that I got to know that in addition to being a writer, he's also a photographer, having authored many books, including Science, Technology and Society, published in 2006, Ashanti Gold, published in 1997, the Bank of Ghana Commemoration of the Golden Jubilee, 2007, The Lake of Life, VRA at 50, and edited many others. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Professor Ayensu has been a fellow of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, and I'm pleased to say that in addition to all the many things he has to do, he makes time to come to academy meetings, to help, and has been a very active member of council for many years. The accounts say, "Uni penina due." And so when I was looking for somebody to ask to take this year's Nkrumah Memorial Lecture, I spoke to one of the past presidents. Now, for me, the past presidents of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, they have been, as a group, a backbone. When I refer to them as my committee of past presidents, the CPP, of course, members of the CPP within the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences were not happy at all. So now, I say that this committee of members of past presidents, they are my COP. Now, in the past, when Ghana had polytechnics, the Council of Polytechnic Principals was called COP. But since we do not have polytechnics, I think that the abbreviation COP I can keep as my own without annoying any members of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. So this member of my COP, I asked and I said, "Prof, can you help me to ask Professor Ayensu to come and give the lecture?" Not only did this past president know exactly where Professor Ayensu was at that time, he had his telephone number. He called him there and then. Professor Ayensu agreed there and then. So you see that it is true. And I'm happy that I have my elders. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our celebrant for the evening, Professor Edward Solomon Ayensu.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. the president of the Academy has spoken. She's spoken, she rather abbreviated a lot of reasons why I said yes to lecture. One of the things I didn't want to hear was whether the Academy was divided into CPP, NPP, etc., etc. This is the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. But I'm particularly pleased to take the podium today for various reasons. I wouldn't like to go into detail because I've been warned I should speak for not longer than 1 hour. And I'm going to try to stick to that or less, if at all possible. But I thought, Madam, for us to start this evening's function, I would like to see if we could observe a minute's silence for Professor Alote. And the reason is I was with him in Paris about a month ago because we were trying to get the Ghana portion of the International Union covering the mathematical sciences, and it's called AIMS, the African Institute for Mathematical Sciences. And we wanted to become category 2 of UNESCO, which comes with a lot of goodies. Now, he managed to get me to go with them so that I could do the talking. And I'm pleased to tell you that before he passed, he saw the birth of the African Institute for Mathematical Sciences and the recipient of category 2. And this, for me, is the crowning achievement for Professor Alote. May we stand for a moment? Thank you very much. Now, my presentation. I will try to stick closely to my text, if at all possible, unless I am diverted by the Spirit. I actually consider it a great honor and a singular privilege to be invited by the President and Fellows of this Academy to deliver the 2017 Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Lecture. The mere mention of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's name conjures all sorts of feelings because of his political involvement in Ghana and in the rest of Africa, but more significantly, the extent to which he had profound influence in defining developing the concepts of Pan-Africanism in relation to colonialism, imperialism, neocolonialism within the global context. It is not my intention this evening, Madam Chair, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to rehash Nkrumah's politics. Instead, I would like to focus attention on the man, who no one can deny was endowed with enormous charisma and managed to exploit the charm to help put Ghana and the rest of Africa on the world stage. Firstly, before I delve into my presentation, I would like to acknowledge the Academy's magnanimous decision to rebrand the Founders' Day lectures as the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Lectures in honor of the founder of the Academy. Secondly, for those who are interested in reading a brief history of how Nkrumah conceived the idea to establish the Academy of Learning, and those who assisted him, you may want to read the first Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Lecture delivered by Professor Alex Kwapon on the 21st of November, 23. Thirdly, I want to acknowledge the immense intellectual maturity that was exhibited by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and Dr. J.B. Dankwa when the two gentlemen were in the environs of the Academy of Learning. This was at the height of their disagreements of the Ghana political scene. When Dr. Nkrumah selected the first 20 founding members of the Ghana Academy of Learning, he magnanimously included his arch political opponent, Dr. J.B. Dankwa, to be a founding member. Dr. Dankwa, for his part, accepted the invitation and actively made significant and positive impact on building the credibility of the Ghana Academy of Learning. As Professor Alex Kwapon told me personally and noted in his memorial lecture, which I'll quote, "We, the founding members, were all much encouraged by the early spirit of conciliation that seemed to prevail between the two most powerful political figures of our day within the confines of the new academy. This is in stark contrast to the existing situation outside." This scholarly alliance is our legacy. In retrospect, if the two leaders had extended the genuine academic collaboration and intellectual prowess exhibited at the Academy's meetings to the political realm, maybe the destiny of Ghana would have yielded a different fortune. Madam Chair, I have selected a few areas that, in my estimation, define Nkrumah the man and his legacy. As most of you know, Dr. Nkrumah was invited by the United Gold Coast Convention under the patronage of George Alfred Grant. In Sekendi, we all called him Pa Grant, to become the secretary and later treasurer of this nationalist movement established in 1947. what did they do to fight for self-government from British colonial rule? By June 1949, the ideological differences between the UGCC and Nkrumah could not be reconciled. Why? Because the UGCC wanted self-government in the shortest possible time. Dr. Nkrumah's position was self-government now. The inevitable happened. Dr. Nkrumah broke out ranks with the UGCC and established his own party, the Convention People's Party. Now, here again, I am not really interested in his politics, but rather in his relationship, particularly with the women of Ghana. From the very beginning of the founding of the CPP, Dr. Nkrumah recognized the significance of women in the development of the agenda for his party. He managed to influence some very powerful women to join his ranks nationwide. Without the assistance of these women, including my own mother, Mrs. Grace Ayensu, Nkrumah could not have been able to be so successful in getting majority of the women in the country behind him. You may ask the legitimate question, who financed the CPP from the very beginning? People sometimes forget to ask that question. The fact of the matter is that he received financial and other logistical support from the women. It should therefore not be too surprising to know that when Dr. Nkrumah became the Prime Minister and later the President of Ghana, he openly promoted the cause of women and all gender issues as key concerns of the nation. In the book, The Life and Work of Kwame Nkrumah, published in 1991, edited by Professor Kwame Nkrumah, Professor Techua Menu, she's here, eloquently chronicled in her chapter, Women and Their Organizations During the Convention People's Party's Period, the significant contributions that women made during the Nkrumah era. There's a gentleman from the West Indies called Cyril James, who described in his book Nkrumah and the Ghana Revolution, and I quote, "In the struggle for independence, one woman, market woman, was worth any dozen Achimota graduates." I don't know whether I disagree or agree with him completely, because I happen to be an old Achimotan too. But what is interesting is that he based his assessment on some interviews he made throughout Accra and other places. And to make a long story short, these women managed to keep Nkrumah and his followers, immediate followers, in very good repair by making sure that they were not financially strapped. And it's alleged that without the support of some of these women, Dr. Nkrumah and his followers would have had it difficult to survive in Accra. In addition, they were efficient organizers who could bring thousands of people together for a rally at the shortest possible time. Later, in forming the Republic, Nkrumah realized that in order to have a representative National Assembly, women's participation was absolutely necessary at the highest levels of national deliberations. The names of the ladies from the then 8 regions who represented their people were Mrs. Suzanne Al-Hassan from the Northern region, Lucy Enin from Brong Ahafo. She's still alive. I saw her not too long ago, and I can tell you stories about this young lady. Now but she was my junior at Achimota. Miss Regina Asamani from the Volta region, Comfort Asamoah from the Ashanti region, Mrs. Grace Ayensu from Central region, Miss Sophia Doku, Accra region, Miss Mary Cranton, Eastern region, and Miss Christina Wilmot, Western region. All these selected ladies were able representatives of their regions, he thought. See, Dr. Nkrumah actually understood the importance of gender balance in the social and economic development of our nation. In this sense, he invested in people with a wide range of views and experience. Now let me turn my attention to something else that I thought was very interesting when you are assessing Nkrumah the man, not Nkrumah the politician. Dr. Nkrumah was a man who was interested in and sensitive to both natural and human environments. From his perspective, environmental issues were directly linked to the challenges of social and economic development. First and foremost, Nkrumah was interested in the beautification of Accra and the major cities of Ghana. He encouraged various tree planting exercises and the establishment of parks and gardens in the country, and also to serve as nurseries for the beautification of the country. He often drove around Accra and suggested to his followers to plant trees and shrubs and various decorative flowers along the major roads and circles. Nkrumah was also very much aware of the fact that the natural environment provides both constraints as well as opportunities for economic growth and social well-being. He was aware that the building of Akosombo Dam, for example, was going to have a major impact on the lives of over 80,000 human beings and the natural environment. But he felt that although the impact would affect the lives of people in the immediate area of the Volta River, the development of the dam in a sustainable way would meet the current needs of Ghana without compromising on the needs of future generations. Dr. Nkrumah had a foresight that a number of his opponents could not countenance. They called the project prestigious and unnecessary. To attest to the genuineness of Nkrumah's care for the environment, let me share a personal encounter with him on this subject. I had published a paper with one John Hall. Some of you might remember him, an Englishman. There are some plants that grow at the where you have the spillway and where the turbines are, right on top, overlooking the down stretch of the Volta. We published a paper on a plant that grows only there and nowhere else in the world that we know of. And we were talking about the fact that there are certain hotspots that have been developed around the world, and these are areas to be preserved. So I got to Legon from Washington, and my colleagues at Legon, I remember U.C. Lane and others, and Professor Lawson, they said that, listen, the president is destroying all those things you wrote about. So in my little desperation, I went to my mother, of course, and I said, I hear the president is destroying something at that. My mother said, get into the car, let's go. So we drove straight to Flagstaff House. They saw her car, they opened, we got in. But before we could get near, we met Mr. Nyamike. Some of you may know who he was. He was really one of the most famous people in the president's entourage. So by the time my mother and I got inside and they seated her, there comes this gentleman in a white, resplendent tunic apparel. And of course, he recognized my mother immediately. And he said, Edward, are you back? I said, yes, sir. And my mother didn't want any pleasantries. He said that, I understand you are spoiling something at Akosombo. So the president turned to me and he said that, Edward, I said, sir. He said, what is happening? I said, oh, there are some plants that grow only in this place and nowhere else in the world. Gave him a little bit of scientific underpinnings. And believe it or not, in our presence, he said, Mr. Okun. They called, Mr. Okun was one of his senior secretaries. And he said, tell Mr. Ayupumi to change the site of where the chalet is going to be built, just like that. And believe it or not, the order was given and immediately they had to look for a new place where the chalet is right now. But what is interesting is, years later, when VRA asked me to write their 25th anniversary volume for them, I was with my friend, childhood friend, Louis Kisley Hayford. I took him around And when we got to that area, I described why Nkrumah didn't have the chalet in this place, but they moved it to that side. As soon as I told him that, he said, he started insulting me, and the reason I understand. They wanted the chalet built almost like now, and they were under tremendous pressure. He'd done everything, and all of a sudden, the order came in that they should change the site. So that's why Louis was so annoyed with me, and he said that, listen, we didn't know where it came from, not knowing it was you. Oh, you could do it. So that's, now, the reason is that here you are dealing with a leader, regardless of what anybody thinks about him, he respected scholarship. He knew the importance of knowledge-based information and what that does for nation building. And I can go on and on to tell you some more stories, but let me tell you that to actually attest to the genuineness of this man, it is important that we acknowledge Ghanaians, especially those in the leadership roles, to forget about individual names and think about scholarship for a change. The fact of the matter is that Dr. Nkrumah had a deep sense of respect for scientists and technologists by taking their advice seriously. He was a leader who, as I said earlier on, respected knowledge-based information. Now let me talk a little bit about arts, culture, sports. I would venture to describe President Nkrumah as truly a Renaissance man. He is a politician who approached his love and interest in the arts with the same enthusiasm as he did for politics. His love and promotion of Ghana's culture, music, art, theater, and sports knew no bounds. Things that he felt were important, he made happen. It's a shame Professor Emeritus Kwame Nkrumah is not here. Remember, he was one of the founding fellows, one of the 20 fellows, or they were called members of the Academy of Learning. He had chronicled in his presentation of the second Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Lecture, and the title was Kwame Nkrumah and the Arts, a Personal Testimony. And this is about his impressions of President Nkrumah. The intensity with which he approached this social, environmental issue has also been eloquently described by Professor George Hagan. I saw him around here. There he is. Professor Hagan, in his chapter on Nkrumah's cultural policy in the life and works of Kwame Nkrumah, he pointed out that by the time Nkrumah was overthrown, all of the nation's arts and cultural institutions had been put in place. These included the Ghana Museum, which was opened in 5th March 1957, the Arts Council in 58, the Research Library on African Affairs in June 61, and the Ghana Film Corporation in 1964. His footprint in the radical transformation of institutions, such as the archives and library services, the National Broadcasting Corporation, the theater and public entertainment, development of Ghana's languages, etc., etc., etc. I can go on and on and on. Just to point out that he was not interested only in politics, sensu stricto, as people think of him, but he was also interested in all other branches of learning. Now let me talk to you a little bit about his interest in education, in science, technology, economic development. Without a doubt, I consider Dr. Nkrumah as an African leader who, from the very beginning of his rule, decided decades ahead of his colleagues that without science and technology, we on the African continent would not develop. We are now only beginning to catch up to his vision. Indeed, for him, education, science, technology, and economic development were key investments in the future that would elevate Ghana to another level of development on the African continent. In 1976, and please note the date, 1976, the Ghana Academy of Sciences was invited by the US Academy of Sciences to contribute a chapter to a book they were putting together to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the United States. And I was, of course, working at the Smithsonian at the time, and somebody, I think it was Professor Bequia or somebody, said that since I'm already in Washington, I should write the chapter for us. So I did. And I was then, I must confess, a very keen student of Dr. Nkrumah's promotion of science and technology in Ghana's economic development. And this, of course, inspired me to start my chapter with the following statements. And don't hold me to it. I just referred you to the date, 1976. And listen to what I wrote. The prospect for achieving rapid economic recovery and social prosperity in Ghana will depend upon a national strategy that incorporates the utilization of science and technology, plain hard work, and national discipline. In addition, there must be marked improvement in management skills in all sectors of the economy. In the same document, I said, a modest scientific and technological development holds the key and most promise for the future of Ghana. My evaluation is based on the conviction that Ghana needs to engage in judicious economic planning by exploiting the best of its human and natural resources. In addition, the country must make intelligent use of its limited financial resources. While no one can deny the advantages of obtaining external help from Ghana's friends, the burden of fulfilling the country's economic and social destiny can be sustained only by Ghanaians. But above all, the country must have political direction to enable the government and the people to focus on the kind of economic development that will be in the national interests. Just a little bit more. And I said, the person who had the most profound influence in the overall development of Ghana was the late President Kwame Nkrumah. While one may criticize him and his government for many errors in economic judgment and political activities, it is only fitting that his era should form the reference point in any discussion of the development of Ghana. It was certainly Nkrumah's foresight and leadership ability that aided Ghana in breaking away from colonial rule. It was he who foresaw the significance of science and technology in the economic development of Ghana. End of quote. And this is what I wrote, 1976. For example, Nkrumah observed that financial investment in the promotion of science and technology had aided the developed and the rapidly developing countries to obtain substantial economic returns from those investments. In his enthusiasm to ensure that Ghana developed rapidly, he conceived the idea that the best way to mobilize the scientists was to ensure that they were working at close proximity. This was reflected in his speech delivered on the 25th of November 1964 at the foundation stone laying of Ghana's atomic reactor. It was at this junction that he made public the idea of establishing a science city. Dr. Nkrumah indicated that the science city will accommodate a number of special research institutes and will be a center where the academy, I'm now talking about the Ghana Academy of Sciences, will undertake pilot industries based on its discoveries. That when the academy recommends the setting up of any full-scale industry, it will be in a position not only to give expert advice on the type of industry plan, but to establish a group of people who can really make sure that the theoretical presentations become a reality. Of course, things have changed a lot. If not, all the CSIRs and so on will be under the academy today. But don't forget, it was obvious that Nkrumah knew exactly what direction Ghana should take to develop a well-founded science and technology infrastructure. The Ghana Academy of Sciences was then a corporate body responsible for the organization and coordination of all scientific research in all branches of learning. It is interesting to note that because of the keen interest Dr. Nkrumah took in the affairs of the academy, his critics felt that he was politicizing the academy. On the surface, his critics were not entirely wrong, because many facets of the academy's organization were fashioned after the USSR. This is the Russian Academy of Sciences. What we should, however, focus attention on is that during the Nkrumah era, the country experienced for the first time the infusion of science education into all levels of our school systems. On science education, Dr. Nkrumah stated, and I quote, "There are not nearly enough Ghanaian scientists and Ghanaian technicians of all kinds for the work we have on hand. Even the finest laboratories, the best equipment, or indeed the best reactor will not produce scientific work of their own accord. Only men and women can do that, and only after long and highly specialized training in scientific techniques. Hence, we need to press on with the greatest urgency the scientific and technological training of young Ghanaians. Every boy or girl who shows talent in this direction must be encouraged and helped, because such talent is exceptionally precious to us, and we must foster and guard it. Our universities, the various institutes of the academy, the University College of Science Education like Cape Coast University, our newly established medical school, etc., etc., etc. It was indeed during Dr. Nkrumah's presidency that Ghana experienced the most remarkable acceleration in the training of scientists and technologists, both at home and abroad. One of my encounters with Dr. Nkrumah, this was in London, that defined for me the quality of man he was. I had returned from Washington to London to read for my doctorate degree at the time. And he had come from Ghana to London, went to the embassy, and Major Anthony, some of you remember Major Anthony was our High Commissioner at the time. So he was introducing his senior staff, and then he said, "Oh, this is my secretary, Mrs. A." He used to call my wife Mrs. A. He said, "Mrs. Ayensu." So President Nkrumah said that, "Do you know Auntie Grace?" He said, "Oh, I'm married to one of so he said, "Which one?" He said, "Edward." He said, "Ask him to come and see me at the residence." So that evening, I went to the residence with Dinah, my wife. And as soon as he saw me, he said, "Edward," I said, "Sir." He said, "Are the Americans polluting your mind?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "Let me tell you, they are wonderful people. They have made me who I am today. Learn everything you can learn from them and then come home." And you see, at that time, people were talking about, he's a communist, this, that, and the other. The man's inner feelings were totally different from what I was experiencing. So I can only talk about my own experiences with it. One of my encounters, there's a number that I cannot even take time out, madam, to talk about. But we had a leader that I wish we could have exploited him better than we did. Now, there are quite a number of things. Let me talk a little bit about state-owned enterprises. State-owned enterprises. From the very beginning of his leadership of Ghana, Dr. Nkrumah realized that his new nation could not achieve economic progress without industrialization and technological sophistication. Therefore, he set in motion the establishment of a number of state enterprises covering a wide range of industries. You know them, and you'll see them in print. I don't need to bore you with it right now. Dr. Nkrumah established a number of factories that, if we had really continued to examine the utility of these industries and forgot about his name, but looked objectively at what these industries could have done for Ghana, we wouldn't be in this state today. And that's one of the reasons why, to tell you the truth, I accepted to talk, because those of us who are not politicians, and we don't know much about politics, but one thing we do know is when we see good things, we don't forget. And I wish we could have separated a lot of the political jargon from the realities. The Volta River project, for me, is one of the most important projects that Nkrumah put on this country, with the collaboration of the Kaiser Aluminium people. I know there are a number of our colleagues here who know quite a lot about it, but Aki and others, you were all signing papers. I checked them all out, because when I was writing the book, I knew who has done what. Nobody can hide from me. So, but I want to say that it wasn't easy. Dr. Nkrumah's determination to get the project off the ground did not diminish, regardless of all those difficulties. With the encouragement of a number of his ministers, like Bedema and Bochio and others, Nkrumah displayed unusual tenacity to forge ahead with the project. Although some may argue that Ghana government did not do well with the Kaiser agreement because of its weak bargaining position. The hard reality is that without the Volta River project, Ghana would be in an even more difficult financial position than we are in right now. What the project set out to do had by and large been achieved. In a nutshell, a project that was described as prestigious by some economists and political opponents of Nkrumah has turned out to be Ghana's salvation in the energy field. Just to demonstrate Nkrumah's foresight from the very beginning of the Akosombo Dam project, he realized that the power generation from the project would not be sufficient should full-scale industrialization take place in Ghana. Therefore, from the very outset, preliminary studies were made concerning the future generation of hydroelectricity at Pong and at Bui. The rest is history. Now, we've talked, at least I've tried to talk a little bit about Nkrumah at home. Internationally, Dr. Nkrumah made some noises that, when you look at them in the present context, it would have been a wise trumpet to blow at that time. But unfortunately, when Ghanaians get upset with somebody, they go all the way. They forget that even sometimes mad people, all of a sudden they will do something that shows as if you've developed a brain wave of some sort. The man had a lot to tell the international world, and all that I can refer you to is his address to the United Nations National Assembly in New York on the 23rd September 1960. If you have time, please read that speech, in which he commented on diplomacy, cooperation, and Western neo-colonial exploitation and violence. Is the key example of Nkrumah's significance in global affairs. He made pointed suggestions to the great powers to change their ways in order to promote peace and prosperity. Indeed, the first call for Africa to have a permanent seat on the Security Council was made by him in his speech. And as I said, this is a whole lecture by itself. Please, if you have the time, do read it. Now I better conclude. Madam Chair, my esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, let me recall that the then head of state, Colonel Acheampong, fittingly called Dr. Nkrumah's death on April 27, 1972, one of the great ironies of our time. he noted that a man who was so much maligned, condemned, and rejected by his own people should, at his death, be praised and loved, so much that he be finally accepted by his own people again. And Colonel Acheampong was actually talking about Nkrumah's charisma, which we didn't exploit enough. And he said that so far away, he died, and hoped that Nkrumah's death should transcend all feelings of hatred, animosity, and revenge, and should enjoin Ghanaians and freedom lovers everywhere to lie in a spirit of reconciliation and brotherly love. But Ghanaians across the political spectrum are still grappling with the legacy of Nkrumah. I hope that by moving away from the politics and focusing on some aspects of Nkrumah as a man, that we can draw on the spirit of progress and future thinking that was at the root of his hopes for this country. His belief in women as key social actors, his support of education, and the Ghana Educational Trust, as far as I'm concerned, his focus on science, technology, and expert knowledge, the development of projects such as Volta River Dam, all attest to his vision for Ghana, with which we are still trying to come to grips. Madam, I want to thank you all again for taking time out to come to listen to me. I hope the Academy will continue to make presentations about all our founding fathers who had made significant contributions to Ghana's development process. Thank you very much.
Immediate past president of the Academy, past presidents of the Academy, past and present members of Council of the Academy, fellows of the Academy, the family of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Professor George Hagan, the leadership and members of the Convention People's Party, CPP, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Our celebrant, Professor Ayensu, has spoken from a personal experience of the founder, of somebody whose mother was one of the first women members of parliament of the country, must have a lot more experience than what he has shared with us. But he has put his lecture also in the context of the relationship between Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and Dr. J.B. Dankwa within the academy. I took note of the remark he made that if the tolerance of these two gentlemen who were at different ends of the political spectrum within the country had been put into the national political framework, we would have had a different story to tell in the country. But I wish to say that this mutual respect between Dr. Nkrumah and Dr. Dankwa still remains within the Ghana Academy. The work of the Academy does not take into consideration at all what is happening in the national political arena. And fellows do sit down to committee work for the benefit of the academy, for the benefit of the country, laying aside completely their political leanings. We thank Professor Ayensu. We have come to the end of the series of lectures and 2 symposia this week commemorating the founding of the academy. Please, if you know anyone who missed this week's proceedings without valid excuse, kindly inform them they have made a big mistake. They have made a big mistake. They should repent of their behavior and join us for future events of the academy. We, the council and fellows of the academy, have had the good fortune to be part of the celebration of the 60th year of Ghana's independence. And we have had several events tailored specifically towards the celebration of Ghana's 60th year. The Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences will turn 60 in 2 years' time. We are looking forward to a big, big celebration. And please do join us at that time. But this week we have had our celebration under gloom, I should point out, because about a week or 10 days ago, I should say we were on the brink of cancelling the annual Founders Week altogether, because we had the terrible news of the passing away of Professor Alote, telling us that he was mortal after all, passing into eternity less than 2 weeks before the start of the Founders Week celebration. I thank members of council for direction in discussing and coming to a conclusion about how we should carry on. I thank you most sincerely. And I'm also grateful to the Programs and Anniversaries Committee of the Academy. I acknowledge them here publicly. The Chairman, Dr. Eugenia Dateba, please know that we appreciate what you do very much. We have come to the end, but next week, God willing, the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences will hold an evening of remembrance to honor Professor Francis Alote. It will be Friday, the 24th November at 5 p.m. here at the Academy's auditorium. The Secretariat have produced flyers. They put these flyers in the brochures. Please check in your brochure for your flyer. Take a few more flyers with you to give to others. Join us, please do join us, and encourage others to come so that we remember Professor Francis Salute, who has passed into eternity. And now again I thank Professor Edward Solomon Ayensu. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please join me to show appreciation to ourselves.
We would like to thank the President of the Academy for chairing this evening's event. Shall we give her a clap? We also want to acknowledge the presence of the following schools: Accra College of Education, Accra Institute of Technology, and African University College of Communication. Shall we clap for them? We would like to thank each one of you for gracing this occasion. We have come to the end of the series for this week. Tomorrow we would have a dinner. You are all invited. Oh, the students, you are invited. Shall we please rise as the party appear? Okay.